Let me ask you this question. Your team is leaving the office sharp at 6 p.m. every day, while you're sitting there slogging until 10 p.m. Is it because they're lazy and unmotivated, or because you've made yourself the bottleneck? Most leaders think they are the hero when they are working the hardest and longest. But actually, you might be the very reason your followers have stopped caring and are unmotivated in your eyes. Today, I want to show you why some of your motivation approaches might not be working as well as they should, and what you should be doing instead. I want to share with you a story from one of my recent leadership workshops. This one participant came up to me during the break. Now, I've changed some parts of the story to respect the person's privacy. He was routinely working till 10 p.m. every evening, fixing the mistakes of his team, redoing their reports, and making sure everything was up to standard before submission to clients. And his team, at 6 p.m., they would just pack up and go. The quality of work wasn't up to his standard. So, he wanted to know what he could do to motivate a team that just don't seem to care. I said to him, "You're working really hard, but not in the right areas. You think that by staying back until 10 p.m. every evening, you're leading by example. Usually, leading by example works to motivate your team. But not in this case. It doesn't matter, because your team has already left the office by 6 p.m. They're not seeing your hard work. So, by fixing their mistakes and redoing the team's reports, what you're doing is actually training your team to let you do their jobs for them. When the company is actually paying them to do their work, why are you doing it for them? Does it make sense?" So, with the two of us standing in front of a whiteboard, I proceeded to draw for him a motivation mind map, the one you see on the screen now, to show him that leading by example is just one way to motivate others. Also, that he was accidentally creating a culture where people stopped being motivated because he had taken away their sense of ownership over their own work. Sometimes, leaders feel that they are the ones carrying the whole weight of the team or department on their shoulders, while everyone else is just cruising along with minimum output. If you're a team leader or a department head, you might have felt this way before. Regardless, you have got to stop being the doer and start being the driver. So today, I'm going to share with you what I've reviewed to my participant with this motivation mind map, so that at the end of this video, you will have a clear idea of what you have got to do to create motivation in your team. And if you're a head of department watching this, what we cover will be relevant for you too. The first thing I talked about with this participant was his outlet. Basically, who is he talking to or with to get different leadership perspectives? We tend to lead based on what we know. So I asked him how was he upgrading himself or getting fresh leadership perspectives. He told me that as a leader, he actually found it quite lonely because there was no one he could safely open up and talk with. I shared with him that there's only so much you can talk to your boss or to a peer, because you have to maintain the perception that you know what you're doing when it comes to leading others. Talking with your boss or your peer is more of a way to confirm if what you intend to do is on the right track. I told him that every leader needed a safe space to talk, and so he had to go find a coach, a mentor, or just a peer leader in the same or different organization. When people have an outlet to share ideas and open up, they benefit from different perspectives, allowing them to lead in better ways that would drive higher levels of performance. Another area that I pointed out to him was his working till 10 p.m. each evening. Honestly, I told him he was adopting a doer rather than a driver mentality. The doer relies on their personal effort. The driver mobilizes people around them to scale their output. There was no way his personal effort could be more than the combined output of his team. But what happens is that as a doer, he didn't have time to coach or mentor his team, and end up devolving to leading in a give orders or task mode. A driver would assign goals and outcomes, delegate them, monitor progress, and keep people accountable through conversations. I then asked my participant what would happen if he was a leader who was driving performance from the team. What would that look like? He said that there will be more conversations. Everyone would know what were the expected performance outcomes, and that they would be held accountable. He would also be less stressed as a leader. Finally, I asked him what he thought was the difference in the level of motivation for followers between a leader who was driving performance versus one who was doing the work. He said at least 10 more percent, maybe even higher. Now I drove home this point. If being a leader that drove performance and accountability can result in at least 10% more motivation from the team, what would his work life be like? My participant was silent for a couple of seconds, then said his team would stay back longer, produce better work output, and he would get to go home earlier each evening. Albert Einstein was once quoted to have said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we use to create them." My participant understood that the level of motivation in his team was largely due to his leadership, and he needed to upgrade his capability to lead. You can start by getting different insights from others. You can do the same, whether you are a team leader or head of department. We all need others who have experienced leadership at our level to provide different perspectives, because we all have blind spots that limit our growth. First, the word fungible on its own very simply means interchangeable. In the leadership context, I was explaining to my participant that motivation is fungible because you can do many different things in order to motivate someone. You can interchange different approaches. The issue is that there's no one way to motivate because everyone is different. So you will need to use different approaches. What works for one person might not work for another. That means that in order to motivate, the following matters. The quality of your leadership. Do you know how to lead well? Do you know how to cause certain leadership outcomes to occur in your team? For example, if you want more collaboration in your team, what can you do to make that happen to ensure that the collaborative culture is sustained in your team? This applies even at the departmental level. Are you having regular team meetings so everyone is on the same page with the same understanding on what must be done? As an HOD, do you have regular scheduled town halls where you bring all the various teams under you together to talk about the department direction? Are the goals for individual team members aligned with and connected to what the team aims to achieve? For HOD, are your team leaders aware of how their team goals connect to the department goal? Are the rewards and recognition sufficient and in the form that is desired by the team? It's not always about the salary alone. According to Frederick Herzberg's two-factor theory, salary is a hygiene factor. That means a salary at market rate is essential to prevent job dissatisfaction, but giving more doesn't lead to sustainable employee motivation. Rewards and recognition could be career opportunities, high-profile projects, secondment to other parts of the organization, job rotation, etc. Not just the monetary factor alone. What about your relationship with the individuals in your team and with the entire team or department? Do you have a warm relationship with them, or are they distant? How does the team or department as a whole view you? It's always easier for team members to work with a boss if they view the boss positively. 6. Have you worked out with your followers an action plan to convert strategy into operational reality? Do you even check in with them to know if they know what needs to be done? Are you having regular formal and informal performance conversations when a team member is new, checking in now and then to see how they are doing, or when they are not meeting expectations? Are you also then using the opportunity of those conversations to provide feedback and coaching to them? You see, all these approaches are interchangeable, and they are not an exhaustive list. The key takeaway here is that you have to do all of them regularly and consistently, because what works for one person might not work for another. For example, one team member might be having performance issues because they're not clear on what are the goals and outcomes to be achieved. For another team member, it might be a relationship issue with their colleagues or with your leadership style. Yet for someone else, they might be trying their best at work but need feedback and coaching to know how to actually improve. And you might not know what the motivating factor is unless you talk with the person, have a warm relationship with them, and this assumes they know what the problem is. In other cases, they might generally not know what's the cause of their poor performance in the first place, and you have to point it out to them. That's why you need to employ a variety of approaches in order to motivate those you lead. If leadership feels complex to you and this video is helping you make it clearer, I invite you to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps me shape future content for leaders like you. One thing I realized, not just limited to my participant that I was speaking with, but also to many other team leaders and a fair number of heads of department I've worked with, is that many don't quite understand what engaging your employees mean. Now, engaging your employees is to be involved in their work in various ways, so they're able to perform at the desired level. What then are the different ways in which we can engage our employees? Number one, meetings. Are you having regular team meetings so everyone is across what their colleagues are working on? Are you using the team setting to align everyone towards team goals? For many heads of departments, you will have to run regular town halls and employ scheduled internal communication methods to update your department. Number two, goals. Is the individual team member goals aligned with the broader team goals? And are they aware of how their individual goals contribute to the broader picture? The same thing applies with you as a head of department. Do your team leaders see the connection between their team objectives to that of the department? 3. Rewards. As contradictory as it sounds, not everyone is only after money. Sure, money is important because most of us need to make a living. However, once the money factor is satisfied, other considerations come into play, such as a good boss, a non-toxic work environment, colleagues you can get along with, stimulating work. Your job is to find out what the team member wants, and then to offer them the closest thing possible within the constraints of the work environment. 4. Relationships. For many employees, having good colleagues in a close-knit team and a good boss can greatly reduce the emotional and mental resistance of going to work. It becomes one of your responsibilities as a leader to create the right team environment where performance can thrive. 5. Action plan. Do you sit down with the team and then with the individual team members to go through or at least review the action plan they will undertake? Some team members view you poorly if you leave it to their own devices because it shows them that you don't care. 6. Conversations. Are you even talking with them in a more personal level? Or are you just dishing out orders and expecting compliance? People honestly leave bad bosses, even though they will say in their exit interviews that they have found a better opportunity elsewhere. Most of us just want to be nice and not burn bridges. If you're thinking these things are awfully similar to how we go about motivating people in the earlier point, it's because they are. The only way you're going to get motivation from your followers is to engage them. In the training workshop, the point I was trying to make to my participant was that engagement is more than just team lunches, team bonding events, and having heart-to-heart conversations about life and work. While there's definitely a place and time for those, they appeal to certain people, but not to others as much. As a leader, you must employ a variety of methods to engage and motivate, because you have a variety of people that you lead. Different strokes for different folks. By this point, my participant was beginning to have a clearer idea of what he had to do. And now, this is where I have to manage his expectation. Basically, everything a leader does will create and set a certain culture within his team. Now, culture, simply explained, is the way we do things. So his team leaving work at 6 p.m. and him working until 10 p.m. each evening, that's culture. As he was nearing the end of the break time, I summed up by telling him that he needed to figure out for himself what team culture did he want. Where's the team currently? And what approaches was he going to employ to motivate them towards that desired team culture? For example, if he really wanted his team to be more committed to their work and to produce quality output, then perhaps he needs to start informing the team of his expectations, set clear goals, have conversations with team members, and enforce accountability. Once this was done, I moved on to the next part. I asked him this question, which I will ask you now. How long do you think it will take to change culture? Generally speaking, for a small team of no more than 10 people, you could expect changes in weeks or months. For department heads watching, where you are leading 11 to 100 people, we're looking at years. Why is that? Because when it comes to culture, the way we do things, there's a lot of inertia. People are used to doing things in certain ways, and many of us are resistant to even the slightest of change. Change can be brought about quicker in a team because as the team leader, you are directly influencing change in each team member. As a department head with tens of employees, you have to affect change through your team leaders and trust that they will cascade those changes down to their teams. Understand that the more people you have under you, the more time any change is going to require. We can't just have one team meeting, expect everybody to be fired up the next day, and assume that motivation is going to be sustained for the next 6 months, just from that one meeting. You have got to be consistent in applying the various motivational approaches from point 2 earlier that we have mentioned for the long haul. Stay the course even when you don't see immediate results. The challenge for leaders is to be patient. All these things that I shared with my participant, ultimately all he wants is performance from his team. So how do you know if all these motivation approaches are actually working? These are what he came up with that will tell him if his team members were actually motivated. 1, they would willingly show up to work at the appointed time and leave when their work was actually done. 2, they will be in a happier mood during work and not look grumpy. 3, team members will be more open with each other. I will add these additional points, it's not in the image. 4, a motivated team is accountable for the outputs they produce. 5, you will see more idea generation and collaboration within the team. 6, they will be more proactive in taking initiative when it comes to projects and work. If you don't know what are the signs of a motivated team, then how are you going to sustain your own motivation in employing these different approaches to motivating your team? Remember, change isn't instant. You need to know that the approaches you employ are actually working so that when you see progress, it will motivate you to keep going. And in the same sense, your motivation will rub off on your team. Once again, these signs of motivation are not an exhaustive list. They're simply what I could think of off the top of my head during that break time. What's the final verdict here? If your team is not motivated, the answer isn't for you to be more of a doer, work harder, or stay later. After all, you have your own life to live outside of work. What any leader ultimately wants is the benefits of a motivated team. Those benefits are an outcome-driven team, one that ideates and collaborates and produces quality work. In order to get the benefits of a motivated team, we need to know what causes the effect of motivation in the first place, right? Cause and effect. For my participant, his challenge is to upgrade his leadership, cut down on being a doer, and start being more of a driver. He needs to drive a whole range of leadership activities and approaches regularly and consistently in order to have the effect of motivation in his team. What we must remember is that performance is a culture in a team or department. So that means as a leader, you have to start building the culture that allows the team to perform. This means starting off with you, the leader, being the driver that initiates vision, set the goals, ensure appropriate rewards and recognition for team members, have conversations to align performance, foster relationships with individuals and with the group as a whole, ensure action plans are workable, and employees are kept accountable through them. These approaches, when you do them, will get you the effect of motivation. How much motivation can each of them get you? Maybe a couple of % here and there. But if you do them regularly and consistently, these percentages start to add up. What would an extra 10 or 15% of motivation mean for your team? What would that look like? Let me share with you what an extra 10 to 15% of motivation would look like in your team. It means that the team gets the job done, you get to go back home, you get to have your life, and you might actually start enjoying being a leader. As break time was over, I shared with that participant this final piece of advice. Less doer, more driver. What have you done to motivate your team? Share in the comments below. Remember, leadership is simple but not easy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.